Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are pointing our compass straight toward a city that, well, it demands attention, and one that wears its complexities, often quite literally, on its sleeve. Manila, Philippines.
Manila. It's a place that carries just immense historical weight, doesn't it? Traditionally hailed as the Pearl of the Orient.
Right.
Yet you hear it all the time now. Contemporary travelers frequently dismiss it. They see it as merely a chaotic, concrete jungle,
What?
just a necessary evil before moving on to those beautiful islands. It certainly has a formidable reputation.
And that reputation, that duality, that's exactly what we're tackling in this deep dive, isn't it? You came to us with that core question. Is Manila actually a worthy destination in itself, a vibrant cultural hub?
Or is it just a layover?
Exactly. Is it just a stopover before you jet off to, say, the postcard-perfect beaches of Palawan or Cebu or Boracay? Is the reward really worth the logistical effort involved?
Well, our deep dive into the source material, it comes from a pretty concentrated immersion in the city. We've tried to get a view designed to cut through the usual traveler anecdotes, the quick hits, and really figure out if the inherent cultural richness justifies the undeniable effort required to navigate it.
Because let's be clear.
Yeah, let's be clear. Manila doesn't just serve up its charms easily. It makes you work for it a bit.
It is, I think, above all else, a city of immense, often quite shocking contrasts. We're talking about soaring, ultra-modern skyscrapers. Think pristine, air-conditioned glass and steel.
Right next door.
Right next door to sprawling, low-income communities.
Yeah.
You'll find these centuries-old Spanish colonial churches just standing defiantly beside gigantic multi-story mega malls that really dominate the landscape.
The complexity is staggering, truly, and it reflects the Philippines' turbulent history and, incredibly rapid, often unplanned urban development. It's a full cultural immersion from the moment you step off the plane. And the visual differences between, say, Makati and Tondo can feel like you're moving between two different continents. It's that stark.
So to make sure you, the listener, are ready for this complexity, here is our roadmap for this extensive deep dive. We'll start with the essentials, navigating the logistics, surviving the infamous traffic monster. We've got specific tech and planning solutions for that.
Good. Very necessary.
Then we'll help you choose the right neighborhood, because as we'll discuss, that choice fundamentally changes the character of your trip.
Absolutely crucial.
And finally, we'll dedicate significant time to what sounds like a revolutionary food scene and the deep layers of culture and history that exist far beyond the air-conditioned comfort of those shopping centers.
Can't wait to get into the food. It's incredible.
Me too. Okay, let's dive in.
Right. Let's start right at the very beginning. Ninoy Aquino International Airport, or NAIA, as everyone calls it. For many years, this airport has had a storied past, and often, frankly, a negative one.
Yeah, I've heard the stories.
It earned the unfortunate distinction of being ranked as one of the world's worst airports on multiple occasions, mostly due to infrastructural stress and efficiency issues. Just couldn't handle the volume.
Okay, but the good news is, the sources seem to confirm it has significantly improved its operations and services in recent years. It's starting to shed that notorious reputation.
It has, definitely. There's been investment improvements. But here's the crucial planning detail, and honestly, this is an absolute make-or-break piece of advice for your arrival experience. The 4 terminals.
The terminals, okay.
Exactly. Unlike many modern international hubs you might be used to, NAIA's 4 terminals, T1, T2, T3, and T4, are geographically and logistically quite isolated. This is not like Frankfurt or Seoul, where a quick shuttle or an internal train just links everything seamlessly.
Yeah, you just hop on something air-conditioned and you're there in 5 minutes.
Yeah, not here. If you land in Terminal 3, which is common for major international carriers, but your connecting flight departs from Terminal 1, another major hub for international flights, or maybe Terminal 4, which handles mostly domestic budget flights. Well, you have to travel a considerable distance, sometimes up to 5 miles, and crucially, through public roads.
And the problem isn't really the distance itself, is it? It's the Manila traffic.
Precisely. If your transfer requires moving between terminals, even the dedicated airport shuttles can get stuck in the exact same gridlock as private cars. We're talking about a transfer that can easily consume an hour.
An hour just to get between terminals.
Easily. And during peak times, maybe even an hour and a half, if things are really bad.
Wow. Okay, that's critical information.
So the critical advice here is pretty much non-negotiable. Check the terminal for both your arrival and your subsequent departure before you even leave home. Confirm those terminal number.
Double check them. Triple check them.
Yes. And if they differ, you absolutely must build in at least 3 hours between your scheduled arrival and your connecting flight. Minimum. That's to manage the transfer time, potential queues, and any inevitable delays. This pre-planning will save you, immense stress.
I can only imagine the panic otherwise.
Okay.
Okay, so you've planned your terminals, you've landed. Once you exit the secure zone, you immediately face the city's other great challenge, the traffic monster.
Oh, yes. The beast.
The sources absolutely confirm this infamous Manila traffic is not an exaggeration. It is a living, breathing, choking entity that profoundly dictates the pace of the city and, frankly, the quality of life for its residents.
It really does. And what's fascinating here is the why. Why is the traffic so catastrophic? It's really a perfect storm. Manila grew incredibly fast, explosively fast, with virtually no zoning or coordinated urban planning to speak of.
Just sort of happened.
It just sprawled outwards. And infrastructural investment, particularly in things like rail and roadway expansion, simply hasn't kept pace with the explosive population growth and, crucially, the growth in vehicle numbers.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, think about the economic cost, the societal cost. There's research suggesting Filipinos lose hundreds of hours every single year simply sitting in traffic.
Hundreds of hours. It's staggering.
That's lost productivity, it's higher stress levels, it's immense air pollution. The main artery, EDSA, that's Epifanio del Santos Avenue, is often cited as one of the most congested roads in all of Asia. It's a key logistical insight, really.
Yeah.
The traffic is a direct result of decades of unmanaged, aggressive, sort of short-term urban development.
This systemic failure, it forces a strategic choice on you regarding transportation. And your best friend, your absolute logistical savior for bypassing the uncertainty of this gridlock, is the Grab app.
Okay, Grab, like Uber elsewhere.
Exactly. It's the dominant ride-hailing service, essentially the Uber of Southeast Asia. You need it.
Okay, let's unpack why Grab is king here and why you should download it before you even land. Why is using Grab vastly superior to, say, trying to flag down a traditional metered taxi or grabbing one of those official airport cabs?
Well, there are a few key reasons, all enhancing safety and predictability, which is what you want when you've just landed. First, it completely removes the need to haggle or worry about the meter running up unnecessarily high fares during those inevitable traffic jams. That can be exhausting for a tired traveler.
Right, the meter anxiety.
Exactly. Second, it provides a fixed, traceable price and route, which is crucial for security. You know where you're going, you know what it costs up front. Third, and perhaps most importantly for that initial arrival, it helps you completely avoid the unofficial, sometimes quite persistent solicitors who often approach travelers inside the terminal promising cheap rides.
The guy's trying to pull you aside.
Those guys. Often they lead to scams or just general hassle you don't need right then. Grab bypasses all of that.
Okay, so Grab is the clear winner for comfort, safety, fixed pricing, especially for longer cross-city journeys, right?
Definitely. But
Okay.
to truly understand Manila, you can't just rely on air-conditioned ride shares. You really have to experience the true, unique modes of transport, starting with the icon, the jeepney.
Ah, the jeepney. I've seen pictures. They look incredible.
They are. They're uniquely Filipino, born from repurposed American military jeeps left over after World War II, which were then stretched, covered in chrome, and just wildly decorated.
Like mobile art installations.
Absolutely. They are part bus, part jeep, often painted in these vibrant, almost psychedelic colors reflecting pop culture, religious icons, maybe political figures. They are mobile art, and they absolutely dominate the secondary road system. They're everywhere.
Okay, describe the experience, though, because the source material paints this picture of controlled chaos, but also immense community.
It is precisely that. Controlled chaos is perfect. It's noisy. You often have to squeeze in elbow to elbow with strangers. They operate on fixed routes, but without fixed stops, you just kind of knock on the ceiling or shout "Parapo" when you want to get off.
Knock on the ceiling, okay.
Yeah. And what's truly fascinating and really speaks to that Filipino community culture is the fare passing ritual. When you get on, you hand your small fare, often just, 10 or 15 pesos, very cheap to the person next to you.
And they pass it along.
It gets passed down the line of strangers, hand to hand, all the way up to the driver, or sometimes a conductor. It's this little chain of trust and community in motion.
That sounds amazing. I would definitely recommend doing this then, but maybe for a short hop, like 2 or 3 stops.
Exactly. Do it for the story, the immersion, the sheer exuberance of the ride. It's an absolute blast for a short distance.
Maybe not for cross-city travel or getting to the airport with luggage.
Oh, definitely not. Stick to the Grab for that. You don't want to deal with the noise, the heat, the fumes, and the slow pace of the jeepney for an hour-long congested journey with bags.
Got it. Experience it, but strategically.
Now, for physically bypassing the worst of the gridlock, especially during rush hour, the MRT, that's the Metro Rail Transit, and the LRT Light Rail Transit train systems are essential options. They provide excellent north-south routes, especially along major arteries like EDSA.
So they offer a way around the traffic jams, theoretically efficient.
Mm-hmm.
But the sources highlight a major limitation, right? Capacity.
That's the critical point. They were simply not built to handle the density of the modern metropolis. The population just exploded beyond the system's capacity.
So what does that mean in practice?
It means they're fast, yes,
Ah.
but you must be prepared for them to be incredibly crowded. During peak hours, the phrase tight squeeze is a literal, often quite uncomfortable, description of the physical proximity you will share with your fellow commuters.
Sardine can situation.
Very much so. Furthermore, the network itself is limited. It serves specific corridors effectively, but doesn't offer the comprehensive coverage that a true world-class subway system in, say, Tokyo or London would.
Right.
So you'll often find yourself needing to rely on a grab or maybe even a jeepney to get from the train station to your actual final destination, which means you can never fully escape the road traffic. It's often a multimodal journey.
That raises an important question then.
Yeah.
Thinking about all this, the airport, the traffic, the transport options,
Mm.
what stands out to you as the single most critical survival nugget, linking the logistics and the chaos?
I think it's the mindset shift. Honestly,
Yeah.
you cannot rush Manila. You just can't. You have to accept that your personal definition of on time has to adapt to the city's rhythm.
Embrace the chaos, basically.
Embrace it, or at least accept it. If you accept that a 5-mile journey might take 45 minutes, maybe an hour, you reduce your personal frustration level by about 90%. So download Grab before you land. Definitely purchase a local SIM card, which you can often do right there at the airport. Makes everything easier. And then, yeah, take that jeepney ride, but maybe on day 2 or 3 for the pure culture once you've gotten your bearings.
Makes sense.
It's a logistical challenge, no doubt, but it is entirely manageable with a bit of technological preparation and, crucially, a healthy dose of patience.
Patience is key. Okay, moving on from survival to strategy. Manila is vast, right? It sprawls across multiple cities and districts, and the neighborhood you choose as your base, the sources say, will fundamentally define the entire character of your trip.
Absolutely. The city is less a single monolithic entity and more a kind of patchwork quilt of completely distinct, often socioeconomically segregated vibes.
That's a good way to put it.
If you choose Intramuros, your trip is going to feel historical, maybe a bit gritty. If you choose Makati, your trip is modern, global, highly corporate. The choice really reflects what kind of Manila experience you're actually looking for.
So let's break down the main options, starting with perhaps the comfort zone. The safe haven for maybe nervous first-timers or business travelers. Makati.
Yes, Makati. It's the central business district, the CBD, and it is the absolute definition of modern efficiency and global standards. It's clean, it's polished, and it feels incredibly safe.
Why does it feel so safe?
Well, partly due to the dense presence of security personnel, many of whom are visibly armed. It provides a very effective, highly controlled safe haven from the perceived chaos raging just outside its borders.
Right, it's like a bubble.
It is a bit of a bubble. This
Okay.
area is centered around towering office buildings, housing global finance, tech firms, call centers. It's really designed around high-end consumption. You've got vast shopping complexes like Greenbelt and Glorietta, which offer these controlled, climate-regulated retail environments.
Air conditioning is a big plus there, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. And importantly for the traveler, Makati has probably the highest density of quality international dining, sophisticated cocktail bars, rooftop bars, and high-end international chain hotels. Everything's very convenient.
But, and this is a point of critique that comes up in the source material, if the whole point of travel is cultural immersion, is Makati's maybe sanitized environment actually a detriment? Are you missing the real street-level Manila by staying inside this corporate bubble?
That's the exact counterbalance, isn't it? While it's functional, safe, convenient, Makati can feel extremely sterile. It's highly functional, but sometimes lacks that uniquely Filipino character.
It could be anywhere.
It could almost be anywhere. It often feels indistinguishable from any other major modern business district in Asia, whether you're in, say, Kuala Lumpur or Singapore. It reflects the global elite, perhaps more than the everyday street life of the Philippines.
Okay, so for Travelers seeking that modern comfort, but maybe wanting a bit more soul, a bit more intention in its design. The recommendation seems to be Bonifacio Global City, or BGC.
Yes, BGC. This area is newer, built mostly on reclaimed land, actually, from a former military base, and it is almost shockingly well designed from a modern urban planning perspective, especially compared to the rest of Metro Manila.
How so? What makes it stand out?
Well, BGC is often seen as the future of Manila, or at least an aspirational version of it. The walkability alone makes it stand out significantly. It is an absolute rare treat in this city to be able to just stroll for long distances without having to constantly fight for sidewalk space, or deal with street vendors setting up shop, or worry about traffic encroaching directly onto the pedestrian path.
That sounds like a luxury in Manila.
It really is. It was clearly planned with pedestrians and community spaces in mind from the outset. It's full of striking public art installations. Everywhere you look, there's something interesting. There are thoughtfully integrated green spaces, little parks and squares, and a whole host of trendy cafes, independent restaurants, modern retail spots.
And the crowd.
It naturally attracts a younger, more international, maybe more affluent crowd. It gives it a vibrant energy that definitely elevates it above the purely corporate feel of Makati. It's polished, yes, but it feels intentionally artistic and community-focused.
And the development of BGC itself, that offers a key insight, doesn't it, into the rapid Philippine economic growth and maybe attempts to correct past mistakes.
Absolutely. It was arguably designed specifically to solve the problems Makati inadvertently created: the unwieldy traffic, the poor walkability, the lack of integrated community space. It's the intentional, modern, and often quite expensive solution to Manila's old chaos. It shows where the investment is going.
Okay. Now, if you want to throw predictability, modern convenience, and that air-conditioned bubble completely out the window
Right.
and jump straight into history, raw and unfiltered,
Yeah.
you head to Intramuros.
Intramuros. This is the complete opposite of polished and modern BGC.
Tell us about it.
Intramuros is the historic walled heart of Old Manila. It was built entirely during the Spanish colonial era, beginning way back in the late 16th century. It's a physical, living testament to those nearly 400 years of Spanish influence.
So you feel the history just walking around.
Immediately, you are surrounded by centuries of history, cobblestone streets beneath your feet, magnificent remnants of the past, old walls, churches, plazas. The architecture is heavy, it's grand, it's incredibly evocative of that colonial period.
Now, while the hotels within Intramuros itself offer incredible traditional character, the source material gives a critical practical caution for choosing this as your home base, right? Because Intramuros is like a historic island,
It is.
surrounded by older, less developed, and more, let's say, active commercial areas.
That's the key consideration. Specifically, the surrounding districts like Ermita and Malate, which were actually once high-profile tourist areas themselves decades ago, can now be quite rough around the edges, particularly at night.
So what does that mean for a traveler staying there?
It means if you choose to stay in Intramuros, or right nearby, you probably need to be a more seasoned traveler. Someone comfortable with a heightened level of urban grit. Someone with good street smarts and awareness, especially after dark. It's not dangerous necessarily, but it requires more vigilance than, say, BVC.
Okay, so let's synthesize this for the listener choosing their base, Makati. For the safe, convenient, maybe corporate base, the place where global business happens. Predictable, comfortable,
Yes, the reliable choice.
BGC. For the trendy, walkable, modern cultural immersion. Feels like the intentional future of Manila. Lots of art and cafes.
Polished but with soul.
And Intramuros. For the history buff, someone willing to embrace the grit and the deep past, understanding that staying there requires stepping outside that protective bubble a bit more.
Exactly. 3 completely different ways to experience the same city, often separated by just a few miles, but maybe several hours of traffic.
Always the traffic. Okay, perfect.
Now, let's transition to what many travelers, myself included, cite as the biggest, most pleasant surprise in Manila: the food.
Ah, yes. I'm excited for this.
Filipino cuisine is, simply put, a revelation. It's a profound reflection of the country's multi-layered historical identity.
It truly is. Before really diving into the sources, I don't think I fully appreciated the fascinating blend of influences at play. We're talking Spanish methods and ingredients, deep, ancient Chinese trade influences,
Centuries of trade there.
indigenous Malay techniques, and even really lasting impacts from the American colonial period, all combining to create this symphony of flavors that manages to be simultaneously salty, sour, and sweet. often all in the same bite.
It's an amazing balancing act. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this blend is a direct reflection of those maritime trade routes and that tumultuous colonial history. It's a culinary philosophy based heavily on preservation using vinegar and salt, essential for long sea voyages back in the day, and adaptation, taking influences and making them distinctly Filipino.
Fascinating.
And the first dish everyone must try, the quintessential taste of the Philippines, the undisputed unofficial national dish, adobo.
Adobo. Okay, break it down. What is it exactly?
Adobo is savory, it's rich, it's comforting, usually made with chicken or pork, sometimes both. It's slowly braised until incredibly tender in a simple but perfect mixture of soy sauce, vinegar, crushed garlic, bay leaves, and black peppercorns. It's the ultimate taste of a Filipino home. Its simplicity is its genius.
Sounds delicious.
And what's fascinating here is that every single family, every region, every restaurant seems to have its own slightly different recipe.
Really? How do they vary?
Some are drier and more caramelized. Some are much saucier. Some might add coconut milk that's called adobong gata. Some versions are far more vinegary. Others lean more on the soy. The chemical balance between the acidity of the vinegar and the saltiness of the soy sauce is key to its depth of flavor and also its historical role as a method of preservation before refrigeration. Really speaks to the personal, almost ancestral nature of the dish. Everyone thinks their family's version is the best.
I love that. Okay, so adobo is the comforting staple. What about for those ready to maybe push their palate boundaries? Experience that Filipino sourness I've heard about.
Ah, yes. For that, we move to sinigang. This is the dish that often produces a sharp reaction from Western palates initially because it leans so heavily into tartness.
Okay, intrigued and slightly nervous. What is sinigang?
Sinigang is a sour, savory, and sometimes slightly spicy soup. Traditionally, the sourness comes from tamarind, but other souring agents like unripe mango, calamansi lime, or even guava can be used depending on the region and season.
Interesting. And what's usually in it?
Typically features pork, maybe beef, often shrimp, and a whole host of tropical vegetables like water spinach, kangkong, daikon radish, tomatoes, long green beans. That intense sour profile is unique. It's a deliberate, almost cleansing shock to the system, but in the most satisfying way once you embrace it.
So the sourness isn't just a background note.
Not at all. The taste profile forces you to engage with the food differently. You realize immediately that Filipino cooking doesn't just treat sourness as something to balance, it celebrates it as a fundamental flavor pillar. It instantly makes you appreciate the depth of Filipino flavor development rooted in indigenous ingredients and preferences.
Wow. Okay, adobo is comfort, sinigang is excitement.
Yes. But then there is the undisputed king of all Filipino celebrations. The one dish you will be religiously told you must try while you're there. Lechon.
Lechon.
Mm.
The whole roasted pig. This sounds epic.
It is. And the preparation is nothing short of an art form. The focus here is entirely on textural contrast and presentation. The ultimate goal is to achieve impossibly crispy, crackling, bronze-colored skin. It should literally shatter when you touch it.
Oh, wow.
While the meat underneath remains extremely tender, moist, and aromatic. It's often seasoned simply inside with things like lemongrass and scallions, letting the pork flavor shine.
You mentioned celebrations.
Absolutely. We talk about the taste of celebrations
Right.
because this is the centerpiece dish at every major Filipino gathering, whether it's a wedding, a baptism, a big birthday, or a town fiesta. It's not just food, it's a symbol of generosity, community, and festivity.
So if you're visiting, how do you try it?
Look for specialized lechon vendors or restaurants. The sources suggest maybe skipping small, potentially pre-carved portions if you can, and finding a place that sells it fresh, ideally by the pound or kilo, preferably shortly after the pig has been pulled from the fire or spit. That's when the skin is at its absolute best.
Noted. Get it fresh. Okay, moving from the cultural celebration to a modern icon, Jollibee. We simply cannot talk about food in the Philippines without dedicating some serious time to this chain, can we?
Absolutely not. Jollibee is far more than just fast food. It is a national obsession, a source of immense national pride, a true national treasure.
Why? What makes it so special?
Jollibee is an institution. Its very existence is actually a fascinating case study in market resilience. It is one of the only homegrown fast food chains anywhere in the world to successfully beat back the global giants like McDonald's on its home turf. It maintains a dominant market share in the Philippines.
That's incredible.
So tourists should absolutely visit, if only to understand this massive cultural significance. It tells you something fundamental about Filipino taste and identity.
But why did it win? What's the insight there? How did it beat McDonald's?
The key insight is that Jollibee understood the unique Filipino palate better than the global competitors did, especially early on. They recognized the collective preference for flavors leaning towards the sweet and savory, sometimes in combination, a profile that differs significantly from standard American fast food.
They tailored it specifically.
Exactly. They didn't just import, they adapted and created things Filipinos loved, which means you must try their signature items. Let's start with the chicken joy.
Okay, Chicken Joy. What's the verdict?
It is often described, quite accurately, as unbelievably crispy. The skin is phenomenal. It's seasoned perfectly, a little bit savory, a little bit peppery, and it's frequently served with a side of gravy, a specific, slightly savory Jollibee gravy that adds richness to the already perfect fried chicken. It consistently wins taste tests.
Sounds like serious fried chicken. Then there's the Jolly Spaghetti.
Ah, the jelly spaghetti. This is the dish that confuses and yet utterly charms travelers in equal measure. It is distinctive primarily because of its incredibly sweet sauce.
Sweet spaghetti sauce.
Yes. It's often made with banana ketchup, which is a local staple in itself, red, sweet, made from bananas, not tomatoes. And the sauce also includes sliced hot dogs and ground meat.
Hot dogs and spaghetti. Okay.
It profoundly challenges what many Westerners consider spaghetti, absolutely. But, and this is crucial, it holds this deep, nostalgic, comforting, sentimental value for almost every Filipino, both at home and among the massive global diaspora. It tastes like childhood parties.
So it's comfort food on a national scale.
Yeah.
Got it. Need to try it.
Definitely. Beyond these national icons, though, if you want the best possible on-the-ground food tour experience, our sources strongly recommend heading to Binondo.
Binondo. What's special about Binondo?
Binondo holded the rather amazing distinction of being the world's oldest Chinatown. It was established way back in 1594 by the Spanish colonial government.
Wow, the oldest Chinatown. That's incredible.
It is, and Binondo today is pure sensory energy. The streets are this tight, buzzing network of commerce shops selling everything imaginable, and the air is just thick with the scent of spices, vinegar, frying oil, steaming dumplings. It's a fantastic place to just spend an afternoon getting lost, navigating the stalls and little restaurants, sampling smaller bites that reflect those centuries of Chinese influence on Filipino food.
What should we look for specifically?
Definitely look for the incredible dumplings, steamed, fried, all kinds. Try the perfectly fried siopao. Those are steamed buns filled with savory meat, often pork asado, which is Swedish, or bola bola, which is like a meatball. And explore the rich noodle dishes like pancit canton or mami. The enduring presence of Binondo really demonstrates the profound and ancient Chinese influence not just on the country's cuisine, but on its entire commercial backbone for centuries.
Amazing history and food combined. And we absolutely must end our culinary journey with the ultimate Filipino dessert, the celebratory chaos that is Halo Halo.
Yes. Halo, halo. It literally translates to mix mix, and that's exactly what you do. It's a delicious, slightly overwhelming, glorious party in a tall glass or bowl.
Okay, describe this party. What's in it?
It starts with a base of finely shaved ice, which is then generously drizzled with condensed milk or evaporated milk, and then it gets loaded up with, well, a bit of everything sweet. Various sweet beans like red mung beans, chickpeas, white beans cooked in syrup, cubes of colorful jelly, cubes of sweet potato or jackfruit, sago pearls, which are like small tapioca balls, strips of young coconut, often a slice or two of leche flan, which is like a creme caramel.
Wow, that's a lot already.
And the crowning glory usually is a generous scoop of vibrant purple yam ube ice cream right on top. Sometimes maybe some toasted rice flakes for crunch, too.
It sounds like an explosion of flavors and textures.
It absolutely is. It's a chaotic symphony. You have the cold crunch of the ice, the creamy sweetness from the milk and the flan, the chewiness of the jellies and beans, the earthy nuttiness of the ube ice cream. It requires a strategic approach to eating. You must aggressively mix it all up, breaking through the layers, getting bits of everything in each spoonful. Embrace the cold and the resulting wonderful amalgamation of ingredients.
Mix.
Exactly. And, you know, it perfectly embodies the complexity and the joyful chaos of Manila itself, a city where so many disparate elements come together, sometimes unexpectedly, to create something wholly unique and ultimately deeply satisfying.
That's a perfect analogy. Okay, so we've successfully eaten our way through Manila in theory. Now let's challenge that other great stereotype. The idea that Manila is merely a city of shopping malls.
Right, the mall capital reputation.
Well, the malls are epic. I mean, they are massive, multi-level structures that serve as social, commercial, and crucially climate-controlled hubs. There's a deep, rich cultural history. just waiting to be explored.
Right.
Absolutely. But we do need to address the mall phenomenon first because it's actually a key cultural insight in itself. The reason Manila has some of the world's largest malls, places like SM Mall of Asia or Mega Mall, are just colossal, isn't solely down to commercial greed or consumerism.
Oh, what's the other reason?
In a city where the climate is constantly hot and humid, often oppressively so, and where public parks and genuinely accessible civic spaces are often inadequate, maybe feel insecure, or just non-existent in many areas, the air-conditioned mall becomes the functional public square. It serves a real social need.
That's fascinating. So it's more than just shopping.
Much more. The mall often acts as the third place, not home, not work. It's where people go on dates, they socialize with friends, families exercise by walking laps inside the air conditioning, people attend mass in chapels inside the malls, they pay bills at service centers, some even register to vote during election periods. It's a climate-controlled community hub, a direct adaptation to the environmental and infrastructural challenges of the city.
Wow, okay. That reframes the mall situation entirely. But once you step outside those massive glass doors,
Yes, once you step outside, the culture is everywhere, starting with the absolute non-negotiable starting point for any real cultural exploration, Intramuros. Again,
back to the wall city.
you really need to allocate half a day, minimum, I'd say, to fully absorb the atmosphere of the walled city. It is literally a journey back in time to the heart of the Spanish colonial capital.
And the source material suggests a particularly engaging way to see Intramuros is the bike tour.
Yes, highly recommended. This allows you to cycle through the area on these really cool bikes handcrafted from sustainable bamboo. You're traveling down the cobblestone streets, past the old stone walls and vast plazas, experiencing the history firsthand, but without the sort of detachment of a car tour or the potential exhaustion of walking for hours in the heat. It's a great pace.
That sounds ideal.
Hmm.
And within the walled city, what are the must-see historical sites?
The historical sites are profoundly significant, particularly Fort Santiago. This served as a critical defense fortress, controlling the entrance to the Pasig River, but it's perhaps most famous and most poignant as the place where the Philippines' national hero, Jose Rizal, was imprisoned.
Right before his execution.
Exactly. During the final days before his execution by firing squad in 1896. That history is palpable when you're there.
How so? What can you see relating to Rizal?
There's the Rizal Shrine within the fort complex. It includes relics, memorabilia, and most movingly, these brass footsteps embedded into the floor, marking the actual path Rizal walked on his final walk from his prison cell to the execution site just outside the walls.
Wow.
And his final famous poem, Mi Ultimo Adios, My Last Farewell, which became a touchstone of the revolution, was secretly written right there in his cell. Visiting the fort is an essential moment of reflection on Philippine national identity and the struggle against colonial resistance.
Absolutely essential. And right near the fort, there's San Agustin Church, another major landmark.
Yes, San Agustin Church. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site recognized for its unique blend of architectural styles. It's often referred to as embodying earthquake Baroque.
Earthquake Baroque. Okay, detail that architectural style, because surviving 7 major earthquakes, as the sources mention, is an incredible feat of engineering for such an old building.
It really is. The Baroque style, which came from Europe, was adapted by the Spanish builders and Filipino craftsmen to the local conditions. The key feature is the use of thick, incredibly heavy buttresses supporting the exterior walls. These weren't just for aesthetic grandeur, although they look impressive. They were specifically designed to resist seismic activity, to absorb the shockwave.
Built strong for a shaky land.
Exactly. The fact that San Agustin, along with its massive, intricately carved wooden doors, has stood since its completion in 1607, despite Manila being in a very active earthquake zone, makes it this silent, powerful testament to Filipino and Spanish engineering ingenuity and resilience in the face of persistent natural disaster.
Incredible. Okay, so if you leave the historical confines of Intramuros and head towards the more modern center of the city, you immediately encounter what is, without question, the best value attraction in the entire city, the National Museum complex.
Oh, absolutely. This complex is extraordinary and immense. It consists of 3 separate, magnificent buildings, all located right next to each other, forming this cultural powerhouse right in Rizal Park. You have the National Museum of Fine Arts, the National Museum of Anthropology, and the National Museum of Natural History.
And the value proposition here is stunning, right?
It really is. They are all highly impressive, incredibly well-curated, genuinely world-class institutions. They're housed in these beautifully restored neoclassical government buildings, and they are completely free to enter for everyone, locals and tourists alike.
Free world-class museums, that's amazing.
It's a deliberate, significant cultural investment by the state, designed to make history, art, and science accessible to everyone. You could easily spend a full day just exploring these three buildings.
Which one should people prioritize if time is limited? Or what's a key highlight?
Well, they're all fantastic, but we absolutely must highlight the National Museum of Fine Arts because it houses arguably the most famous and important painting in all of Philippine history, Juan Luna's Spoliarium.
The Spoliarium, tell us about it.
It is massive, physically overwhelming. It's this huge canvas, completed in 1884, and it depicts the bloody corpses of defeated Roman gladiators being dragged into a chamber beneath the Roman Colosseum, stripped of their armor and belongings. It's dark, it's powerful, it's incredibly dramatic.
Okay, but what's its political significance? Why is this particular painting so central to the national identity? It's set in Rome, not the Philippines.
That's the key. At the time it was painted, the Philippines was suffering under oppressive Spanish colonial rule. The painting, though set in ancient Rome, was immediately read by Filipino intellectuals and nationalists as a powerful allegory. They saw it as representing the suffering and exploitation of the Filipino people under a brutal foreign regime.
Ah, coded message.
Precisely. And incredibly, it won the gold medal at the prestigious Madrid Exposition of Fine Arts in 1884. This forced the Spanish colonizers to publicly celebrate and acknowledge a work of art created by a colonial subject that tacitly but powerfully criticized their own rule. Seeing this painting is absolutely mandatory for understanding the roots of Filipino nationalism and the role of art in that struggle.
Wow, that's a must-see then. And you also mentioned the architecture of the National Museum of Natural History is worth the trip alone.
Yes, it's housed in the former Department of Tourism building, another grand neoclassical structure.
Yeah.
But its recent renovation features this massive, absolutely stunning central atrium.
What's it like?
The atrium is designed as this huge, towering structure resembling the double helix of DNA. It spirals upwards, connecting all 6 floors of the museum, and it symbolizes the incredible biological richness and diversity of the Philippines archipelago. It's modern, it's grand, it's an awe-inspiring space just to stand in. It offers a perfect, uplifting juxtaposition to the heavy historical feel of Intramuros nearby.
Fantastic. Okay, so we have history covered, art covered. What about a totally different, more modern cultural snapshot, moving away from the past and into the present creative scene?
For that, the recommendation is to seek out Cubao Expo, sometimes called Cubao X. This gives you a really interesting glimpse into the contemporary, often countercultural Filipino creative life. It's far removed from the glitzy corporate atmosphere of Makati or BGC.
Cubao Expo, what kind of place is it?
It's described as this quirky, slightly hidden compound. It was repurposed from an old shoe mart complex from the 70s, I believe, and now it's full of small, independent shops.
What do they sell?
All sorts of cool stuff. Places selling vinyl records, vintage clothing stores, small independent art galleries showcasing local artists, shops selling handmade crafts and zines. And there are also a bunch of cool, laid-back bars and even some microbreweries tucked away in there. It has a very indie vibe.
So it's kind of the anti-mall.
Exactly. It's the anti-mall. It represents the underground energy, the independent spirit, maybe the counterculture of Manila. It offers a contrasting, much more relaxed, slightly gritty vibe compared to the polished perfection of the CBDs. It really shows you the sheer diversity of life and expression happening within the city limits, highlighting the vibrancy of younger Filipino entrepreneurs, artists, and creatives. A great place to hang out in the evening.
Sounds like a necessary contrast. Okay, this is all great stuff to see and do. But since Manila is a city that can easily overwhelm, and we want this deep dive to be practical, the secret to a successful trip isn't just knowing where to go, but maybe also knowing what to strategically skip or avoid.
Absolutely. This is essential, I think, for helping the listener bypass potential frustration and avoid that feeling of information overload that Manila can definitely induce.
So what's your number one piece of advice based on all the source material for what not to do? It seems to relate directly back to the logistics.
Don't fight the traffic. Just don't. Do not try to cram too much into one single day.
Accept defeat early.
Pretty much. The traffic always wins in the end. If you create an itinerary where you think you can comfortably visit Intramuros in the morning, then pop over to the vast National Museum complex in the early afternoon, and then maybe zip across town for dinner in BGC, you are essentially guaranteeing yourself 5 hours, maybe more, of that precious day just sitting stationary in a car or a Grab.
5 hours in traffic. Ouch.
The frustration level will become monumental. It will sour your experience.
So what's the strategic solution then?
Focused exploration. Commit to exploring one or at the absolute most two adjoining neighborhoods per day and explore them deeply. Immerse yourself. If you are based in Makati, stay there for the afternoon, enjoy the greenbelt parks, the cafes, the safety, the convenience. If you are exploring Intramuros, maybe combine it with the food tour of Binondo, which is right next door. Trying to zigzag across Metro Manila is just a recipe for monumental, spirit-crushing frustration. Be realistic about travel times.
Less is more, geographically speaking.
In Manila, absolutely. We also need to offer a slight note of caution regarding street food. Now, while street food is a celebrated, generally safe, and ubiquitous part of travel in many other Southeast Asian destinations, think Bangkok, Hanoi, Penang, Manila, doesn't quite have the same extensive, world-famous street food culture that is immediately obvious and perhaps regulated for mass tourist consumption in the same way.
Okay, so it's different from, say, Thailand. What's the advice then?
For first-timers, especially if you know you have a sensitive stomach, our sources advise maybe a tiered approach. Perhaps skip the random, unregulated street cart you see on a busy corner initially until you get your bearings. Instead, stick to carinderias.
Arendarias, what are those exactly?
Carinderias are small, local, often family-run eateries. They're essentially micro-restaurants, often open-air or very simple setups. They offer authentic, home-cooked Filipino food, often displayed in pots and trays. Turo-turo style, meaning point in a slightly more controlled, visible, and generally more sanitary environment than a completely random street cart might be.
So it's a safer entry point to local food.
Exactly. They are the ideal intermediate step between restaurant dining and true street food. Also, surprisingly perhaps, the food courts inside the major shopping malls are actually a very safe, air-conditioned, and surprisingly efficient way to sample lots of different regional Filipino dishes all in one place until you get your street-level bearings and your stomach adjusts.
Good practical tips. Okay, finally, here is the potentially controversial skip that came up in the sources, and I want you to defend this. Skipping the Manila Bay sunset. Wait a minute. The Pearl of the Orient is famous for its sunsets over the bay. Why would the sources advise skipping what sounds like a quintessential Manila activity?
Okay, fair challenge. It's not about skipping the sunset itself, which is often spectacular. It's about optimizing the experience of seeing the sunset versus the reality on the ground at the bay itself.
What's the reality on the ground?
The reality is that the immediate waterfront area of Manila Bay, the physical promenade along Roxas Boulevard, can often be quite dirty, unfortunately. There can be issues with pollution, smells from the bay, and the experience often involves dealing with significant overcrowding, especially on weekends, and frankly, sometimes some persistent vendors or petty hassle that can detract from the moment.
Right. So we're skipping the specific location, the promenade, but not the actual view.
Precisely. Our recommendation, based on the sources, is to skip dealing with the bayfront itself and instead find a comfortable, perhaps slightly more upscale, high-altitude vantage point. The spectacular sunset, which genuinely paints the entire sky in these incredible fiery oranges, purples, and reds, is often much better viewed and more comfortably enjoyed from a rooftop bar.
Where would you find those?
Plenty in areas like Makati or Ermita and Malate still have some good ones with bay views, maybe even parts of BGC. You get the full, dramatic panorama of the colors spreading over the vast urban landscape and the water, cocktail in hand perhaps, and absolutely none of the ground-level inconvenience, crowds, or pollution. It's about optimizing the amazing visual experience while acknowledging the limitations of the physical location down below.
Makes sense. Better view, less hassle.
Okay.
We've covered the logistics, the neighborhoods, the incredible food, the culture, the smart skips. Now let's talk about the ephemeral, the intangible, the real soul, the vibe of Manila. For me, reading through everything, that vibe seems defined by one word: resilience. Forged in fire, almost.
That is the perfect term, resilience. When you consider the history of this city, centuries of Spanish colonization, then American, then Japanese occupation, ending in the devastating Battle of Manila in 1945, where it was one of the most destroyed Allied capitals of World War II, second only to Warsaw.
Just flattened.
Almost completely flattened. Then add repeated major earthquakes, volcanic eruptions nearby, typhoons, constant political turmoil, and incredible infrastructural upheaval. The fact that it maintains such an incredible level of vibrant energy and this pervasive, almost defiant optimism is truly remarkable. It keeps bouncing back.
And that energy, that resilience, it seems to be channeled entirely through the people, right?
Yeah.
The source material really emphasizes that Filipino hospitality isn't just a marketing term for tourists, it's deeply genuine.
It really is. People are generally quick to smile. They seem genuinely eager to help if you look lost or confused. And they're incredibly quick to share a joke, often self-deprecatingly, about the traffic or the weather or the situation. This warmth, this inherent generosity, and this deep-seated optimism somehow manage to cut directly through the noise, the pollution, and the undeniable chaos of daily life.
So the chaos is the background hum.
Exactly. The chaos is the constant background hum, but the hospitality and the spirit of the people is the foreground music. Manila is absolutely a city of beautiful, sometimes jarring contradictions that you see play out constantly.
Like what? Give an example.
Like you might see a meticulously dressed, very serious-looking security guard outside a luxury high-rise in Makati who, during a quiet moment or a lunch break, momentarily breaks character to perform this complex, absolutely flawless dance routine just for himself or his colleagues. Yeah. Or you see that ancient, resilient Spanish church like San Agustin standing defiant against a skyline that's now dominated by sleek glass and steel towers that were probably built in just the last 20 years.
We did.
The old and the hyper new, side by side.
These contrasts are everywhere.
Huh?
And what's fascinating here is that Manila seems to demand something significant from the traveler, doesn't it? It is emphatically not an easy city.
Not at all.
It doesn't present its charms to you on a silver platter like, say, Rome or Paris might.
Yeah.
You have to actively work for it a bit.
You really do. You have to be patient, first and foremost. You must be prepared for the logistics. And crucially, you have to be willing to look past the superficial grit, the grime, the noise on the surface, to find the human heart, the culture, the history that lies just beneath.
But if you invest that effort,
If you invest that effort, the sources suggest the return is immense. Which leads us right back to our core question for this deep dive. Having thoroughly reviewed the history, the culture, the logistics, the flavor, is Manila worth it?
okay, the verdict. For me, based on this deep immersion into the source material, the answer is a decisive, resounding yes. Absolutely. But that yes comes with a huge necessary qualification that every potential traveler must internalize before booking that flight.
What's the qualification?
It is worth it if you are the type of traveler who genuinely values rich, complex, sometimes difficult history. If you value an unforgettable, truly revelatory and complex food culture. And if you value connecting with the sincere warmth and incredible resilience of the local people.
I agree completely. And I'd add, it is absolutely worth it if you seek an unforgettable, deeply cultural travel experience, something that requires maybe a bit of critical thinking, adaptability, and patience, rather than simply seeking a relaxing, predictable, stress-free beach vacation.
Right. It's not Hoi An or Phuket.
It's not. If you can embrace the chaos as part of the culture, if you are prepared to look deeper than the first impression, you will find a city that is wildly rewarding, incredibly dynamic, and utterly unique in Southeast Asia.
I couldn't agree more. So the final advice is, don't fall into that common travel trap of just using Manila Ninoy Aquino Airport as a mere layover point, a transit hub. Give the city itself 3 or 4 dedicated days, minimum.
Let it reveal itself.
Exactly. Explore its different faces. Cycle through the stone-walled history of Intramuros. Eat yourself into a happy food coma in the ancient buzzing alleyways of Binondo. Spend an afternoon absorbing world-class art for free at the National Museum complex. And then sip a high-altitude cocktail watching the sunset over the vast, pulsing skyline from a rooftop bar in BGC or Makati. If you give it the time it actually deserves, Manila absolutely gets under your skin. In a good way.
In the best way. You really won't regret giving this resilient, chaotic, complex, and ultimately incredibly warm city the chance to charm you.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We've gone through the sources, we've navigated the traffic, at least mentally, and we've tasted the adobo and even the jolly spaghetti.
We have. Now, building on that idea of resilience and that incredible cultural blending we talked about, perhaps we can leave you, the listener, with something to consider as you think about Manila's future, or maybe your own visit.
A final provocative thought.
Yeah. How has the city's unique blend of those 4 major historical influences? Think about it. The Spanish Catholic structure and zeal, the deep Chinese commercial backbone and culinary influence, the foundational indigenous Malay culture, and then the significant American democratic ideals and pervasive pop cultural influence. How has that specific, unique blend created the particular character of Filipino optimism and adaptability that we see today?
That's a great question. How does that mix play out?
Think about the long-term impact of those four distinct forces, not just on the food or the architecture which are visible, but on contemporary Filipino society, on its politics, and maybe on the sit-ins' remarkable ability to continuously absorb new ideas, new people, and somehow thrive, or at least endure energetically, amidst the constant infrastructural chaos.
Consider how that layering of very different influences enables the city and its people to remain so intensely positive and welcoming, despite the daily challenges.
Yep.
Something to mull over.
Exactly. Until next time, travel safe and stay curious.